And we are live. Welcome. Today is Wednesday, March 29th. And I got a pretty good show lined up. I'm going to be talking about some Lamar Jackson news, a lot of fun hockey stuff going on, and a little bit of NBA at the end because it is going to be a fun night. So without further ado, the biggest story in sports right now, let's just start off with it. It is Lamar Jackson. Obviously, the two teams I have on the little headline is the Colts in Washington. I'll get to that in 1 second, but the first thing I do want to talk about is why it doesn't make sense for some of these teams that a lot of people are saying should go after Lamar to actually go after Lamar. And those teams, I'm going to start off with an easy one. Miami, they have Tua. And they don't have picks. Why would you trade? Well, you already don't have picks, and you have a quarterback. It doesn't make sense. Atlanta, I don't think it makes sense for the Falcons to go after Lamar Jackson because I believe they need pass rush 10 times more. They're not in a position to draft a QB at pick 7. I don't believe that. You already have Desmond Ridder. I think you let it rock with him for one more year. You brought in Taylor Heineke. Those are serviceable starters. I believe with the Falcons, they're way more in need of defense, not offense first. Because it was proven at the end of last year that they can win games with the rush-heavy offense that they had. And if you can develop Ridder into something, I don't think you go over the top and pay money for a Lamar Jackson right now. But Atlanta needs defense first. Tampa. Next one is Tampa because a lot of people are saying Tampa should go after them. The main reason is simply, to put it bluntly, they're in cap hell right now. They have no money. They're going to be fucked for years to come. And what's the one thing you do what's the one thing you don't do when you're fucked salary cap wise? You don't proceed to give a guy $200 million. You don't do that when you're fucked salary cap wise. That doesn't make sense. And then the fourth team, why it doesn't make sense, is Tennessee. Lamar and Derrick Henry would be sick. It'd be sweet. But unfortunately, Ryan Tannehill still has 1 year under contract. And it's an $18 million cap hit. I don't know how you would be able to move that now. Now that we're essentially in April, we're essentially in draft season, where all the free agency moves have happened. The only chip left on the table is old Lamar Jackson, unless the Ravens want him, but I don't see that happening. I think you let it rock out with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry for one more season. Don't trade Derrick Henry. Just don't do. That's an entire separate discussion. Just don't trade Derrick Henry. That shit's stupid. So those are the four teams, in my opinion, why it doesn't make sense. The two teams why it does make sense is the Indianapolis Colts and not right now, but maybe in 1 month, the Washington Commanders. And to put it bluntly, for both of these teams, it is because of the owner. Jim Irsay wants to win. Jim Irsay is willing to shell out money to win. And the head coach they just brought in, the Eagles' former offensive coordinator, he worked with Jalen Hurts. That's a rush-centric offense with a rush-centric QB. You already have Jonathan Taylor. You already have the Quinn Nelson. You already paid a lot of money to the offensive line. You already have Michael Pittman. Defensively, you already have Shaq Leonard and DeForest Buckner. I think they already have the star power. You already have pick 4 too. So in sense of the draft, we know the Colts are drafting quarterback. That's just fact. There is no discussion. And odds are they're not getting C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. It'll either be Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. If you can get Lamar Jackson for pick 4 and next year's first rounder, you absolutely do that. And I know you have to shell out money, but you absolutely do that because you're already drafting a quarterback. Going back to the Falcons point, they were never gonna draft a quarterback. They're not gonna draft one. They already have Ridder, who they're already trying to develop, and they brought in Taylor Heineke. They're not drafting a QB at 7. In my opinion, it only makes sense for the teams that are going to draft a quarterback. And the Colts are in the spot where they're going to miss out on Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. If you can get Lamar Jackson, that is the biggest splash of the draft by far. They already have star power on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Their head coach, actually their new head coach, has already worked with a rush-centric QB, and their owner is willing to shell out money. It all makes sense for the Colts. In my opinion, it makes sense for the Colts. It just depends on, do the Ravens want to get rid of them. Now, moving on to Washington. Washington's interesting. I don't think a move to Washington will happen until new ownership comes in. And we've already seen that two $6 billion bids have been placed for the Washington Commanders, which is butt fucking crazy. But it won't happen until a new ownership group comes in. I don't know how long that process takes, but I'm going to assume it's going to be till after the draft. So if the whole Lamar situation is, let's just say this bleeds into training camp. Let's say Lamar is like, I'm not playing, I'm holding out. And if Washington has a new ownership group, they absolutely have the pieces. They absolutely have the picks to make it happen. I know they're kind of dead set on Sam Howell, which they must know something that we don't with the guy. And they brought in Jacoby Brissett. That's a good little piece. But if you can get Lamar Jackson, and if a new $6 billion bid ownership group wants Lamar Jackson, you're probably going to have to make it happen. That's why that makes sense to me for both the Colts and Washington. More so the Colts. Admittedly, the Washington point is kind of just like new owners probably want some star power for their joke of a franchise. But I could see it happening. And for the teams, it doesn't make sense. Miami's obvious. Atlanta was never going to draft a QB, and they're already trying to develop someone, and they desperately need defense, which they addressed during free agency, but need more. Tampa, they're in cap hell, and Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill's there. No one's going to want him. So, yeah, that is the NFL talk. That was a little summary. Moving on to some hockey stuff, because the last 2 days have been pretty fun. The East wildcard race has been heating up. The two teams that are currently in are the New York Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Islanders, as you can see, 75 games played, 85 points. Penguins, 74 games played, 82 points. Excuse me. The first two out are the Florida Panthers at 74 games played and 79 points. Buffalo at 73 games played and 77 points. I was not able to fit Ottawa, who is, I don't know their games played off the top of my head, but they are tied with Buffalo at 77 points. And the Capitals, once again, don't know their games played, but they are at 76 points. So they're also a part of the race, just couldn't fit them. And it heated up over these last two nights, Monday and Tuesday night for sure, as all of these teams besides the Senators lost. Actually, and the Islanders. But Pittsburgh last night took a 7-4 loss to Detroit, courtesy of a Dylan Perron hat trick all in the third period. For a must-win game, giving up a hat trick during the third period, that's kind of funny. On Monday night, the Senators beat, in a must-win game, the Senators beat the Panthers 5-2 as Bob Vrowski, once again, I'm butchering that last name. It's the Panthers' main goalie, has given up 13 goals in his last 3 starts, including 5 to Ottawa. And something pretty cool for Ottawa, their goalie, Mads Søgaard, probably butchering that too, after having a .833 save percentage to start this month. Over the last 3 games, he has a .949 against Tampa, Florida, and Boston. So Søgaard for Ottawa may be the piece to make the playoffs, to continue making this run, because Florida has a tough matchup tonight. Going to Buffalo, they lost to Montreal in a shootout, so they still got a point, but losing to Montreal in a must-win game is hilarious. But looking towards tonight's games, because some of these teams do play. The Panthers play the Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs are 2-0 against Florida on the season, with the Stars shining. Toronto's winning these games because the Stars are shining. Austin Matthews, 3 goals during those 2 games. William Nylander, 2 goals. Mitch Marner, 1 goal, 3 assists, and John Tavares, 4 assists during those 2 games. If Florida wants to win and kind of get their feet back and make a run, they got to stop the Leafs' Big Four. Will it happen? I don't think so, but hockey's kind of wild. And the 7:30 TNT game tonight, we do have the Islanders against the Capitals. Capitals are 2-0 versus New York this season. And the Capitals have 9 goals scored in the total between these two games, all with different goal scorers in each game. So it's 5 different goal scorers and 4 different goal scorers. Kind of wild. Ovechkin has not scored against them this year. As the Caps need a win, they're putting Darcy Kemper in net. We'll see if they knock him out because Caps do need some wins. Islanders have a little bit of buffer zone, but Islanders need to win too because teams are coming up. Actually, another point for Buffalo, their goaltender Eric Comrie, after pitching a shutout against the Islanders on Saturday night, in their loss to Montreal, he had 38 saves. He did all he could, and he got 3 saves during the shootout period. He did all he could. Buffalo, one of the top offenses in hockey, was not able to get it done against Montreal, which is funny because they have been kind of spoiling some seasons. Yeah, the Eastern Conference wildcard race is heating up. It's very fun, and tonight is an impactful night for it with Florida versus Toronto and Islanders versus Washington. Eastern Conference notes over the last 2 days, actually more specifically last night. The top seed in the Atlantic Boston Bruins on historic paces and the top seed in the Metropolitan Carolina Hurricanes both took losses. The Bruins took a 2-1 loss to Nashville, which is pretty cool. Nashville won following the events that happened last week. And Tampa Bay shut out the Hurricanes 4-0 after being on a 4-game losing streak. So Carolina, what are we doing? Tampa seems to be all the way back. But yeah, when both of the top seeds lose, you got to talk about it. I just didn't watch the game, so I don't fully know what happened. Moving forward to the Western Conference. Damn, that's a good-looking banner. Shout out me. Top of the Central Division right now is a battle, and it is heating up tonight specifically. But you see right there the last 10 games for all of these teams. Minnesota is first seed in the Central Division at 95 points, 7-1-2 in their last 10, all without their star young player Kirill Kaprizov, which is absurd. Matt Boldy got a hat trick Monday night versus Seattle to kind of help shore that number 1 spot up because they need it. Marc-Andre Fleury also Monday night versus the Kraken. Big game. 35 saves. They won 5-1, or maybe it was 5-2, despite being outshot like 36-20. Or, 38-20. Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Boldy. Good for them. Looking at number 2 at 94 points, you got the Colorado Avalanche, who are 9-1. Cale Makar has 15 points in the last 8 games that he has played, and he missed the 1 loss to Pittsburgh. He is absurd right now, the 2021 Norris and Conn Smythe Trophy winner. He's trying to do it again because Colorado is on a heater. And third in the Central, also at 94 points, is the Dallas Stars. 6-3-1 during their last 10 with a 4-1 win over the Connor Bedard wanting Dallas Stars. I've been meaning to do a Connor Bedard segment on one of these. I just forgot. So hopefully Friday I'll remember to do it. But yeah, tonight at 10 on TNT, we got the Minnesota Wild versus the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs are 2-0 against Minnesota this year. And during those 2 games, Nathan MacKinnon has been a stud with 2 goals and 3 assists. But more importantly, in my opinion, Wild star Kirill Kaprizov, who will be out tonight, obviously, has been a stud during the games against Colorado. I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but he has been a stud. So, missing him, Colorado is probably going to win with Alexander Georgiev in net. But, with the Wild, with Philip Gustafsson, he is absurd this year. So, this might be, this is a really impactful game on TV tonight. It's going to be really fun to watch. I'm excited for it. And Dallas, their next game is not until Friday night against the Coyotes. And then Saturday, they do have to play Colorado. So these teams are facing up. They are matching up. It's a battle for number 1 in the Central Division right now. And it is very impactful come playoff time. Moving forward to the Pacific. Basically the same exact thing. The top of the Pacific is not as close, but it is wild, and these teams have both played. And all three of these teams have played in the last few nights. The Kings took a loss last night to the Calgary Flames, ending their point streak at 12. Vegas and Edmonton did indeed play last night, with Edmonton winning 7-4. Edmonton, over the last 2 days, they've played a back-to-back Monday night versus Arizona, last night versus Vegas. 12 goals in those games, none from none from Connor McDavid, obviously the best player in hockey by a mile. Edmonton is a goal-scoring machine. They do have very shaky goaltending, but they're a goal-scoring machine. Vegas 8-2-0. Speaking of shaky goaltending, right now their two main goaltenders in Logan Thompson and Adin Hill. They need them back. They are out on injury. Logan Thomas has been out for over a month now. You see right there, they're 8-2 during their last 10. They are great despite them being out, but come playoff time, they are going to need their main goaltenders, as Adin Hill has not played since March 7th. And Logan Thompson, he got in for a game recently, but he will not be back this week. That was reported last night. But yeah, I don't have the points pulled up in front of me though too, but I do know Vegas is still number one. I made this, but the Kings are number 2, and now Edmonton not too far behind with their 8-1 run. I do not have a graphic made for it, but the Western Conference wildcard race also seems to be heating up a little bit, with Nashville getting a win and Calgary getting a win last night over, in my opinion, upsets. I know the bookmakers, who know more about hockey than I do, had Calgary favored over the Kings. I didn't see that, but fair enough. It worked. And then Boston was heavy favorites last night versus Nashville, but Nashville pulled out the 2-1 win. Really a 2-0 win. David Pastrnak scored with 1 second left, but a 2-1 win. I'm actually very surprised they were able to hold Boston to essentially 0 goals. Very surprising. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because right now the Kraken sit at the first wildcard spot at 88 points. And the Winnipeg Jets hold the second wildcard spot at 85 points. They got shut out by the Sharks last night. The Sharks are one of the worst teams in hockey. They got shut out. The Winnipeg Jets have now dropped 2 in a row. As the Flames and Predators are trying to find their footing, Winnipeg is slipping. Can't have it. But yeah, the Western Conference, it's not as entertaining as the Eastern Conference, but it's honestly getting there with just these top matchups. All so close, all together. Pretty fun to watch. Moving forward, last thing I'm going to talk about, the NBA. A lot of playoff implications in tonight's games. I don't remember all the games, so I'm going to shamelessly pull them up in front of me. I don't remember them all, but I do know there are a lot of play-in implications. Obviously the Western Conference with the Lakers, it's on ESPN every single morning. So the Lakers versus the Bulls. The Bulls are also in the play-in for the Eastern Conference, trying to claw their way away, actually, from the Wizards, as the Wizards hold the 11th seed. Bulls are trying to just stay. The Bulls are trying to stay in front of them, as the Wizards got a big win last night versus Boston. I did not personally expect that. The Heat versus the Knicks is big. Not really for top seed, but this could be the 4 versus 5 playoff matchup. Jimmy Butler, Julius Randle. Kind of surprised this one wasn't on TV, but the ESPN game tonight, at 7:30, is the Dallas Mavericks versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers are locked into the playoffs, but the Mavericks are not. They are currently out of the play-in, so they need a win. I'm expecting a monster game from Luka. I'm actually kind of excited to watch it. I'm expecting something crazy to happen. You got the Pistons versus the Thunder. The Thunder dropped a game last night to Charlotte despite 31 from both Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams. That's wild. They're playing the Pistons. They should win, but they just dropped a game to the Hornets. They kind of need to win to stay in the play-in, but who knows. The Utah Jazz, who are currently out of the play-in and on a 4-game losing streak, are playing the league-worst Spurs. We'll see if they can claw their way back. This would be a good starting point to beat the Spurs and do that. And last but not least, the Timberwolves, who currently hold the 7th seed, are playing the, did I say Warriors? The Phoenix Suns. I knew that. They're playing the Phoenix Suns tonight. Pretty massive game for Minnesota as they're gearing up for hopefully not being in the play-in, but odds are they will be in the play-in. That's going to do it for me today. If you enjoyed, do all the things